Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our weekly live question and answer series where we look for questions from you, the audience, that I will ask our doctor. Today I'm sitting with Dr. Rita Ellithorpe as usual. Thanks for joining us today.
Always a pleasure.
Same here. So we are doing this for education and informational purposes. So this is an opportunity for you to ask any of your burning healthcare related questions, and we will answer those from a perspective of how we would approach this, how a doctor in this office might approach your concern from a functional integrative standpoint. However, this is not meant to replace your relationship with your healthcare provider, with your doctor, so we do ask that you maintain that relationship and follow up with specific questions from them. Hopefully this will just enlighten you a little bit and give you some things to think about or to follow up with your doctor. All right, well, you can ask your questions as always in the chat section, which is over here on this side. You do have to be logged into YouTube to post your questions there, but I am monitoring those and I will pass those along to the doctor. Or you can email your questions in, as some people do who cannot post their questions in the chat section, or if something comes up in the middle of the week and you don't, and we're not streaming live, email the question in before you forget it, and we will ask those on the following episode. Also, in case you don't know, Dr. Ellithorpe is doing a solo live YouTube on Mondays now at 5:30 p.m. That's Pacific time. So you can tune in Mondays as well. She tends to take a little bit more time there, so there's more time to dig a little bit deeper or have more questions answered. So 5:30 p.m. on Mondays, and of course you're watching Wednesdays 9:45 a.m. Pacific. Well, we're getting a couple questions in on the chat, and I've got a couple that were emailed in, so why don't we dive in? Okay, it looks like Cheryl is asking, how can you detox from the Moderna shot? So the Moderna is one of the vaccines for COVID-19. There are several available right now, so how would we detox from a vaccine?
Well, there is no established protocol on this. So this would be 40 years of my clinical experience. We don't have a full understanding of what all is in the vaccine. This is one of the issues that brings some concern to me. But given that, the number one thing I think that's valuable is taking your systemic enzymes. Remember, the Moderna is a mRNA gene therapy. Once it's delivered into your injection site, that then is picked up into your cell, and that messenger RNA will then be read by your cellular ribosomes that will copy the message of the messenger RNA and make spike protein. That is what they're hoping you make antibodies to. And if you make spike protein, this is promoting an inflammothrombotic situation in your body as well. And so we have seen some of these side effects. So taking systemic enzymes like the Vitalzyme or the Vascuzyme, or we have Proteozyme, well clinically researched systemic enzymes on an empty stomach, because you want that to go throughout your body as an anti-inflammatory. And then you want to drink plenty of water. And then I would suggest also doing EDTA chelation therapy, because I have read reports about the electrochemical parameters on spike protein itself. It seems to have a net positive charge. This net positive charge is what will be attracted to the EDTA chelation molecule, and it'll grab that spike protein and help pass it out through urination. So EDTA chelation therapy would be a idea that would make sense. Of course, you want to avoid side effects, toxicities such as the inflammothrombotic tendencies. So you want to drink water, be low carb so you don't have sticky blood. You want to get a good night's sleep so your natural body has a disinflaming time. You want to not eat late at night. You want to have some regular aerobic routine in your life, stationary bike, take a daily walk briskly every day. And I think those things are probably the best direction that I would say at this time.
Okay. Next question comes to us from Sean, and Sean asks, what are your thoughts on annual flu shots? Are there any disadvantages to getting one every year?
Well, the CDC even reports that the proposed value or impact or help from a flu shot is on the average of 46%, which is almost a wash, you know. So I don't think that speaks volumes to its tremendous help or value. So
we also would need to know, or to fully answer that question, if you had a patient in front of you, you would know their age, what are their risk levels.
Right.
If you're looking at an 18-year-old young woman who's otherwise healthy, probably not risk versus benefit, versus maybe an 80-year-old with other potential underlying conditions.
Right. So one of the best things to do to maintain your immune system is to lead a lifestyle that is anti-inflammatory. So all the things I had just mentioned, the water, the low carb, the exercise, the good night's sleep, not eating late, these kind of things keep your risk diminished as well. So again, it's only 46%. They are trying to figure out each year what strain, and so you might even be getting a flu shot for a strain that you're not going to encounter. So it is a bit of a guesswork, and therefore, because of its underwhelming impact, I'm not recommending them.
Right. Okay. Our next question is from Michelle. And Michelle asks, what holistic supplement can be used in place of Zoloft? So what is Zoloft?
Zoloft is an antidepressant, SSRI reuptake inhibitor. And what I would suggest is exercise is well known as a natural antidepressant. Socializing, having meaningful relationships. Some do this through their church fellowship. Some do volunteer work at the schools, or have some contribution that you give, maybe to a soup kitchen or something you're doing, some work as teacher's aides. Doing something in a community based toward a goal is always encouraging. Exercise,
Sunlight.
Sunlight, yeah, vitamin D is a very natural antidepressant, and almost all of us are low in vitamin D. So I would work with your doctor to make sure that your vitamin D is at the upper levels, such as I like to get my patients at 80 to 120 nanograms per deciliter. So we would dose you probably after we get your sample, and then make sure with a repeat that we get you in that realm. Hormones are natural antidepressants.
Women, and you need to see a doctor to check your hormone levels, and then have a doctor who understands hormone replacement therapy to be able to prescribe the correct hormones.
Yes, even water helps as an antidepressant. Most of us don't drink enough water. We're drinking flavored things and coffees and lattes and juices, but water is the drink of your brain. That's a natural anti-inflammatory, antidepressant. Probiotics in the gut, using a good range of well-researched probiotics and prebiotics. Prebiotics are the food that the good bacteria eat. So if you have artichokes and other things like that, that will help with your putting this inulin is the item that they usually eat up to be and these probiotics help your body make serotonin, which is a natural antidepressant. There are many other things, ashwagandha, various herbs that have been used. I think if you do all these things, the exercise, the group participation or faith-based work, if you're drinking enough water, if you're not clogging up your vessels with a high-carb diet, if you're getting enough D, if you need hormones to get them replaced, and probiotics for your gut. I mean, that's just a beginner right there, you know.
Okay.
So I would even get a complete digestive stool analysis and look at how inflamed your gut is. And as we work dietarily, maybe some food allergies to disinflame your gut, your mood improves.
All right, the next question is from Lynn, and Lynn says, my vitamin D level went from 30 to 50 NGs per ml, taking 5,000 IUs for 1 year. I switched to 10,000 IUs the past 3 months, and it has reached 55 nanograms per ml. What can a person do to raise levels quicker?
Well, it's the product probably. I don't know where you're getting this from. It could be the product is not a quality vitamin D product.
It could be. I'm
surprised that if she said she was 5,000, got to 50, and then she went to 10,000 and only got up to 55.
But it's been 3 months.
Yeah, it should be up there already by now. I would encourage her to not be afraid of using 15,000. That's what I use every day to get these levels above 60, 80 range. That's really the widely protective ranges on so many levels.
Could it be a gut absorption issue?
I think it's more an idea of the product quality. So that's something that's got to be looked at with your doctor. I want to point out, when I was 30 years old, I was on active duty. And I was working the emergency room. And so I would be on all manner of wild shifts, working 14, 16-hour days. I was pregnant with my second son, and so I went all those months and the stress of it with the pregnancy, working full-time up to delivery. I had no break. There was no mercy for me. And then I had the baby, and then I was required to get a flu shot. And I wound up getting Bell's palsy. So you'll see that if you look at me, one eye opens a little different than the other, and I have a droop on this side of my face. So I had a adverse reaction to it. I don't think that would have happened to me if I had been taking better care of my lifestyle, but I was under orders of the U.S. government to work, you know. And even if you're full-term pregnant, you know, no breaks for you. So you have to give your body, your immune system, time to rejuvenate. And that's a good night's sleep, plenty of water, reducing the immune suppressing actions of the sugars and fruit sugars. Because all my life, even when I'm giving a speech or talking to people, I can feel the nerve and the muscle resistance, and I become self-aware of it. It takes me off of my topic, and I become self-conscious of this.
Okay. We have a question from Michelle, who says, other than my yearly exam blood work with Dr. Mitchell, how can I monitor my vitamin supplement levels?
We have some laboratory assays. One is called a SpectraCell. A SpectraCell is a micronutrient assay, the very thing you want to know about. These are not done in the standard medical realm. This is more forward-thinking, preventative, anti-aging type of doctors doing this. It'll give you your CoQ10 level, your vitamin E level, selenium, certain wonderful micronutrients, a whole array. There's about 60 micronutrients that are considered very vital. There's another one called a CMA. The
CMA, right, with the redox and cellular nutritional assay?
Yeah, it's a cellular nutrition assay. It's similar. It's competing with SpectraCell to try and
it's a little less expensive.
Yeah, and a little less expensive. But it doesn't have the history of performance. So if you're coming to me, I'm going to opt for the SpectraCell, because that place has about 40 years of reliable, reproducible internal checks and kinks all kicked out. And it is a type of test where they culture your cells. So they're going to take your lab, your white blood cells that have nuclei, and they're going to grow them on Petri dishes. So this is the epitome of taking a part of you and stressing it nutritively and seeing what nutrient Petri dishes you didn't survive your cells in very, very well. So yes, we have these wonderful tests that she could get done.
Right. Yeah, I mean, other than testing, and doing blood work, you really can't monitor how you're uptaking your supplements, but you can stay the course. You can work out with Dr. Mitchell, let's say, what you should be taking on a daily basis and what that routine should be. Is there any testing she needs or would like to see in between your 1-year visits? And then she can comment on those in between, send you out a diagnostic report and say, adjust this or take this. But other than that, just stay the course.
Be on the same nutrient
Yes.
protocol for about a month before you do this test.
Right.
And that's how you can check your lifestyle and supplement behavior. You have to also remember, if you look at the U.S. Food and Drug and agricultural assays that are done on nutrients, I have an encyclopedia of food values. The mineral and nutritive content of industrialized farming is maybe 50% of what it used to be on the old mom and pop farms 50 years ago. So we do have a sicker, worse, less dense nutrient food sourcing from this massive industrialized, petrochemically, pesticide, herbicide, glyphosated, raping of the earth. So the foods that you're eating are not what they used to be 50 years ago, and that's just the fact you have to deal with, and we're aware of it, and that's why we are. Have you ever eaten a strawberry and it looks so big and plump and it's kind of flat, like cardboard?
Right.
But then you get someone's home garden, or we have our tower gardens sometimes, and we have strawberries, and they're much smaller, but they're bursting with all those phytochemical resiliencies. And I was just listening to a lecture this weekend by Dr. Mark Hyman and Dr. Jeffrey Bland. Dr. Jeffrey Bland created the Institute of Functional Medicine, and then they paired up with Metagenics and so forth. He was talking about the great excitement and over the finding that these phytochemicals, the colors of the fruits, the vegetables, the berries, are so not called vitamins like B or C or A or E, but they are collateral supportive toward gene epigenetic modulation so that you live longer. Now, I've been using Juice Plus. We've been doing this, Jeff and Mark. We've been doing this for about 30 some years, okay? And I find that those people who have been on Juice Plus for 25, 30 years, now they're in their 80s, approaching their 90s, they're living longer. They're not wrinkling up. All that phytochemical from 30 different fruits, vegetables, and berries, they were pushing and it may be very well, because God gives nutrients everywhere on the earth, but they're talking about a Himalayan tartar buckwheat that it grows at the high altitudes and endures environmental stresses, so it's got great phytochemicals. And so they're saying use this as a grain, Himalayan tartar buckwheat, okay? And indeed, it has phytochemicals. But I have been for 25 years taking Juice Plus, getting 30 different fruits, vegetables, and berries in me. And I think that's probably, why I don't wrinkle so much. I'm not graying so much. I don't do anything,
Okay, great. I'm going to switch quickly to some questions that were emailed into us, and you can email your questions to us at office@tlcdoctors.com and just put in the subject line question for live Q&A, question for YouTube, something like that, and we'll make sure that we answer those. So question from John says, would you please comment on the statement that the VAERS data is unreliable, false, unverifiable, as warned in the CDC disclaimer? Thank you so much for all you do.
Well, I would say that's just as probable as the CDC statement that the PCR testing is unreliable, false, and up to as much as maybe 94 or so % of the positives for SARS-CoV-2 were false positives. You can't have it one way. If it's good for the goose, it's good for the gander, And so if they're saying you can't rely on these vaccine adverse event reporting, and they did say that. They made comments to kind of kind of calm you down. For instance, I have last Friday's report. The CDC is reporting 11,940 deaths, 618,648 injuries, 1,175 miscarriages. So if the vaccine adverse event reporting is subject to scrutiny, and the CDC also said the PCR test was maybe with the cycles as they were all last year, up nearing 40 cycles or even more, I've heard, then maybe up to 94% of all this cases were not true. So you have both pictures. So what we need is transparency. We need doctors without an agenda talking about the data. And what I would like to see is a safety staff, just like last administration. They had almost a daily report on the vaccine and the pandemic data, and you would go look for the reporting room at the press at the White House. Every day you were getting some feedback from the doctors and all. Why don't we have at least a weekly reporting on some of the impact of these reports of injuries and deaths and so forth? But they're not doing that. So what is a doctor or a clinician like me supposed to do with my patients, my sphere of influence? Well, I have to say, this is the most unusual, double standard, back and forth advisory that I've ever seen in my professional life of 40 years. So then I have to start protecting my patients by saying, I'm hearing too much oppositional statements. I'm not getting the comfort because of censorship. So those I want to listen to and their articles are being taken down. There is no, at least even weekly, team from the Pfizer, Moderna, J&J teams talking with representatives that give us a report every week. They should be talking about this. Therefore, I don't feel with all this cloud and all this censorship, I don't feel comfortable to give my patients what I consider informed consent. Because if I have all these questions, how can I, with a good heart as a physician, tell my patients, I'm giving you good informed consent to make your decisions? So, yes, I think it's an issue that maybe some of these reports do not reflect a true death from a vaccine reaction. But then on the other hand, maybe the 600,000 plus deaths that were attributed to SARS-CoV-2 and the disease COVID-19 should have been scrutinized, and maybe that number is much lower. Where did all the flu deaths go last year? Why did the heart deaths go down? Why did the neurological stroke deaths go down? Why did all these numbers go down, and yet the total mortality death of the year 2019 to 2020 was the same? There was no increased death. So numbers are shifting. Too many questions I don't seem to be getting answers to. Too much censorship. And I think I have lost my respect for the CDC, the NIH, the HHS, and many of the retractions of the New England Journal of Medicine, the British Lancet, JAMA. These retractions have been, I've never seen so much of this. So of course, I can't give informed consent.
Our next question is from Donna, and Donna says, I am traveling out of state in the next 2 weeks, so I'm wondering if I should get a prescription for ivermectin. I forgot to say in my previous question that I'm going to an area that has a high incident of the Delta variant.
Well, if she's interested in getting ivermectin, she needs to make a telehealth visit or so forth. I don't know if she's a patient here or not, but I can only prescribe.
She needs to see a doctor to get a prescription for ivermectin.
Right. And I think there's credible, reportable, randomized controlled trials suggesting there's great value to ivermectin. and I think the doctor and her will determine what her best need is, and I'd be happy to do that for her.
Okay. Next question is from Carissa. Can you recommend an affordable, high-quality food supplement brand?
Affordable. I think, well, you have to understand, it's got to have research. So the most researched one is the Juice Plus series. If you want to say what number one thing is out there as a broad spectrum multivitamin whole food concentrate that has got about 42 peer reviewed and I'm published in it, that's what I would use.
Right. If she's talking about a food supplement, I'm thinking of whole food supplements versus like a vitamin supplement, a multivitamin or a multi-mineral. But Juice Plus, I would agree, is the most affordable given its value. I mean, it's not inexpensive. I think it's about $75 a month.
If you take all three.
If you take all three, right.
If you take the fruits and vegetables, I think it's around $50 a month.
Right.
You know, people go out and spend that much at Kentucky Fried Chicken or a restaurant every month, you know.
Right.
So, no, I would say now is the season to build up your immune system and go where the vast volume of research is. Juice Plus is just my number one go-to.
Yeah, they've been around for a long time because, of course, you can walk into a Whole Foods or a Sprouts or a GNC even and find a fruit and vegetable concentrate.
Mm-hmm.
But what publications have been done on this? Now, Juice Plus has many studies showing many different benefits. We know how it's made. They have a proprietary way of doing that in a dark, cold process that maintains the nutrients in it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody can go and blend up some fruits and vegetables, dehydrate it, and put it in a capsule. But
right.
We don't know if that's going to be absorbed into your body.
Right, show me the studies. Now, I've got clinical experience. I have scientific peer-reviewed publications, including mine. Of course, I'm going to go with Juice Plus, hands down. I think the basic that you need is, I tell my patients, be on Juice Plus, the volume of the research, and what other study out there has about 7 studies on DNA damage prevention. DNA damage prevention, actually genes that are quieted down, that are oncogenic. So no, Juice Plus is number one. A good multivitamin mineral, okay, and then vitamin D, and then take some enzymes. In today's world, with the inflammatory type stressful world we're in, I would take some systemic enzymes. That's my core.
Maybe some iodine.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was going to throw in some iodine. I said 4, but actually it's 5.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, so a good multi-mineral, multivitamin, Juice Plus, vitamin D, and iodine are sort of the foundational pillar supplements that you're gonna recommend for someone.
And the systemic enzymes.
And systemic enzymes, yes.
On an empty stomach.
Right. Okay. We have time for maybe another question here, so I'm going to go to Doris asks, I am 80 and taking 5,000 IUs of vitamin D for a year. My levels went from 11 to 60 and seems to have peaked. I don't get much daily sun. Thoughts on increasing my dosage to 10,000?
I think you could play it this way. You should have your doctor check after you make any adjustments, mm-hmm. because you can theoretically overdose with vitamin D. So on even days, use 10,000, and on odd days, use 5,000.
Right.
So that'll move you up 50%, which might, if you went from 11 to 60, then maybe you'll go up to 100 on this. And I think that should be a very, very excellent protective range. But see your doctor, have it checked. I'm on 15,000, and if I have the slightest sense that I'm coming down with something, I will take a 50,000 international unit D3, 1 a day for 5 days. So that's 250,000 international units over the course of 5 days.
Right.
So you have to understand not to be afraid of vitamin D, value all the benefits of it, but do have your doctor check the levels, within a month or 2 after you've made any adjustments, so you can see where you're at.
Right. And the quality, of course, matters. We recommend vitamin D from Orthomolecular, from Compounded Nutrients, so companies that we know are using the best of the best raw materials and processes to encapsulate.
Plus we add the K2, the MK7. This is a different type of vitamin K, not what you just get from eating greens and spinach, which will help your bones. So I think the older you get, if you're on vitamin D with K2, that will help your bones better.
Okay. And just so that we can end nicely answering every question, at least on the chat for today, I'm going to go ahead and ask one more. Carol says, I heard benfotiamine would help my memory. I am doing enhanced chelation twice a month, but still have memory issues.
Yeah, these, I don't know how to pronounce that quite as well either.
I've never heard of this one.
Vinpocetine, it's a derivative, or it's similar to vinpocetine.
Okay.
And these seem to have value in the brain transfer of neurotransmitters and so forth. So, another really good way to stimulate your brain is to fast. Fasting stimulates brain-derived natriuretic factor, which promotes mental clarity. Anyone who fasts has a better mental acuity. Right. So fasting and exercise always helps memory, always. And then if you do something like pick up a new thing, I'm learning the piano again. I pay someone to come to the house, and I'm
Find
really
a way to challenge your mind.
Yeah,
right.
Challenge your mind and pick up some thing, learn chess, do some new skill like that. Pick up an instrument.
Learn a new language or practice a language.
Exactly. Challenge yourself with a language to do it. But I would just say fasting, because that'll blast so many diseases out of your body.
Yes.
If you just embrace intermittent fasting, don't eat until noon and never eat past 6 p.m. That's time-restricted eating. That alone will extend your life.
Right.
And if you can ever skip a lunch and go 24 hours, dinner to dinner, that will stimulate your memory.
Definitely. Well, great tips there. And Carol, one other thing I'd mention, I don't know if you're a patient here or not, but we do have a supplement called Membran that is designed for cognitive function, and we've heard good things about that. All right, everyone, that is overtime for today, and I do have to get Dr. Althorpe ready for her first patient of the morning. So I want to thank you for joining us. Do us a favor, if you found any value out of today's Q&A, give us a thumbs up just under the video here, and even better, subscribe to the channel. That way you'll be notified when new content comes out. We'll be posting some exciting things coming in the next few weeks. We're about a week or two away from our production room being done there. We're going to have some polls going out about future content and some questions, so that's the best way to engage with us. Do tell your friends and family about the channel. You don't have to be a patient here to watch, enjoy, learn, and ask questions even. So spread the words for us. That certainly helps and encourages us to continue to pump out this content. We'll be here next Monday, Dr. Althorpe doing a little bit longer version at 5:30 p.m., so join us on Monday. And then we'll be back next Wednesday at 9:45 a.m. Pacific. Thank you, everybody, for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you on our next episode. Take care.
God bless.